Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jonathan Mizar. You can call me John. Today I'm going to be doing overrated, underrated, properly rated for various photo, video, mostly photo gear that you would use in the industry and the field. Where do I get off giving you my opinion? Well, you clicked on my face, but please love it. If your attention span is too small, I totally respect it. I'm going to put chapters below, so if there's certain gear that interests you and others, it doesn't, skip around, watch whatever you want. But let's get into it. As the great Black Eyed Peas once said, let's get it started in here. Let's get it started in hot. First one, drones. Drones, you know, the things that fly in the sky, drop bombs, not ours, mostly just take photos. Okay, real talk. Drones, actually a great addition to the industry. A lot of great people like Ruben Wu out there using them in very unique ways where he's not even taking photos with the drones per se, he's actually using them for lights. And that's where drones really come into their own, is they do things that you really couldn't do before. And the fact that you don't need a helicopter anymore. You don't need cranes or any weird stuff to get these shots for movies or photos that you normally would. That being said, I don't like them. I'm actually going to go overrated on drones, and let me explain why. I agree. I totally see the utility in drones. I respect the people who are willing to go above and beyond to do drones for what they have in their vision artistically. Those were words. But what I will say is, in the same way that some people think film isn't worth the hassle, I don't think drones are worth the hassle for what I'm going for personally. And the fact that you need a permit for drones, 250 grams and above in the United States. You need a license with the FAA. Second, you need to vigilantly check the maps to see if you are legally allowed to fly in that area. Third, you do disrupt birds. Just matter of fact, birds do not enjoy being around drones, and sometimes they'll swoop at them. There'll be whole incidences with it. And four, you disturb other people. And for all those just annoyances, for me, I have a drone, and I just rarely pack it. And I do really see the utility and the unique aspects that let you do things that you just can't do with a traditional camera. It's not worth it for me to pack into my own bag, so I gotta go overrated. All right, up next we have Megapixel Count. You know, more is better. Yes, I'll give you that. Is it necessary? No, you know, this is actually kind of a bad topic. I picked this, and only I can be mad at myself if I should have said a very specific megapixel count. I'm going to say that megapixel count is overrated in the fact that, look, I'm not going to turn it down. Someone gives me a camera with 100 megapixels. Yes, I'll take that $10,000 Hasselblad. Yes, I'll take that Fuji full or medium format. Yes, megapixel count is great, especially for landscapes, wildlife, just anything you need to crop. I think a lot of people turn their nose up at cameras that have smaller megapixel counts than they may want, but are like, God, I have to have 45 megapixels. And it's just not true. I would say most people could probably get by with like 18 to 24 megapixels. And the fact that for a long time, back when we were transitioning from film, 12 megapixels was all they thought they needed. And, you know, look, again, it is great to have that flexibility to crop in on stuff, but for every photo you don't crop, your photos are that much bigger on your hard drive, taking that much more space. And additionally, not always, I know the technology's gotten a lot better, but sometimes higher megapixel cameras struggle with noise issues compared to lower megapixel cameras. It just has to do with the actual size of the pixel and how it does in low light performance. But look, more is better, but more isn't always necessary. So for megapixels, I'm gonna say overrated. Up number trace 3, as you may say, we have crop sensors. This is the most popular sensor size that you will see in the consumer market for cameras. This is what you'll see in, like, I don't even know a popular camera to reference, like the R100 for Canon, the Sony like A6400. I don't know what Nikon's doing over there. Look, it's not full frame. It's the one just below that. If you bought a camera and you're a semi-professional to a casual photographer, you probably have a crop sensor. And a lot of people put a lot of pressure on people to say, if you take photography seriously, you need a full frame. And yes, there is a ton of benefits to full frame cameras. I do have to say, I think crop sensors are underrated because they do actually provide a lot of flexibility. Yes, crop sensors do not do as well in low light situations, and it is harder to get fast lenses that provide proper bokeh and stuff like that, depending on what you're going for artistically. If you're a wildlife photographer and you're just shooting in the middle of the day and like your whole thing is you're just a casual bird watcher, way better bang for buck cameras out there on the crop sensor market, because you don't need to get a $14,000 500mm lens. You can get a zoom lens for significantly cheaper just because of the physics of the sensor. And for people who aren't trying to, print 40 by 60 prints of bears in, at dusk, I think you're actually going to be okay. I still carry the ADD on me with the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R, just because if I want to pair it with a sensor, or with a lens, as I should say, it just gives you focal lengths that you don't get with full frame. And my 70-200 is now like a 110 to like 320, I think. I will not correct my math. I refuse to correct the facts. But I think crop sensors get too much hate and people get too much pressure to step up to full frame. They're great. Crop sensors are great. I really stand behind them. I still use them for professional work, for my own work. I love crop sensors. I think everyone should at least have one in their bag just for the flexibility. I gotta say, crop sensors are underrated. And you know what? Since we did crop sensors, we might as well do full frame. Full frame. Underrated, overrated. I'm gonna hit this with the cop out. I'm gonna try and only do one of these. I might take that back. I'm gonna say adequately rated. Full frame, by a lot of people, is overrated, but I actually think it is worth the hype in a lot of aspects, where if you're just trying to do various types of photography, whereas a crop sensor might be good for like landscape and wildlife, full frame, if you have the money, really is good for everything. It's great for street photography, and the fact that, low light, high dynamic range, stuff like that, where like you got bright streets, dark alleys, does great there. Wildlife, if you get a really expensive lens, like I said, you can get that crazy bokeh where it's like the f4 500 600mm lens. Yes, the lenses are more expensive. I do think it is just a very good all-around performance that is worth it if you do take photography seriously enough to spend the money. You don't need it, but it is pretty good if you can't afford to just dish out the cash. I am going to give the cop-out answer. Full frame sensors are adequately rated. All right, you got a full frame camera. You want to put a fast lens on it. What I mean by that is a lens with a large aperture. This might be like an f1.8, f1.2, and then shooting it wide open. Underrated, overrated. Look, I'm the wrong person to ask. I shoot like mostly f8, f9, f11, f5.6 if I'm feeling crazy. I really don't go down to fast apertures all that much. Even like street photography portraits, I really like to include the background. And look, I know other people aren't that way. Some people are like, I paid for the whole lens, I'm using the whole lens, I'm gonna shoot f1.8 every single photo. And I think that mindset is fair, depending on what you shoot. Like portraits, I think they look really good. Wildlife, I think it looks really good. I have to give fast apertures overrated. And yeah, I know, my partner is just freaking out behind the lens, because she's she shoots everything f1.8. But look, I'm gonna give the cop out here. This is from my personal opinion. I don't want to hear it. This is just personal, man. No, look, if that's your style, I totally get it. I'm not hating on it. For me personally, I don't think it adds enough to my photos usually, and I'm just shooting with a more stop-down aperture. And I love it. I respect it. I also don't really shoot with primes all that much, so you know what? I don't even really have access to anything below f2.8. And I do respect that there are lenses out there, like the Canon 28-70 f2 and stuff like that. Like there are faster aperture zooms and stuff now, or the 2.8 f 24-105, whatever. Not the point. I just think shooting wide open is overrated. I think you should maybe experiment with stopping down a little bit, pump your ISO, get that full detail in there, and see if you like it. But I'm gonna go shooting wide open, overrated. Okay, number 6, we're gonna look at weather sealing. Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it overrated? Is it underrated? Look, I'm really in a position where I could make it really my personal opinion. I'm going to say it is. Look, I always buy weather sealed gear if I can. I do own gear that is not weather sealed, but like given the option to buy a weather sealed camera, I'm willing to spend more. And it's because I like to do things like take my cameras with me in all sorts of elements. I hike, whether it's rain, storming, sunny. Like, I am in the elements. I really can justify it. I've got my camera gear very wet multiple times. I like to take it with me snowboarding, stuff like that. It gives you peace of mind. I'm going to go against my own personal opinion here, and I'm going to say that weather sealing is very, very slightly overrated in the fact that I think there are people like me, I'm going to call out my own flaws here, I think really overfeel the need to get weather sealed gear, whereas I do have cheaper lenses that are not weather sealed, and I do use them in similar conditions, and I am a little more mindful to like tuck them into my jacket and stuff. They're totally fine. And I do other measures like pay for insurance on all my camera gear, so I am covered in the event something happens. I get to play both sides of this coin. I almost always buy weather sealed gear. I do think it's slightly overrated. And you know what I will say, and I say that from the aspect too of if you ever look into weather sealed gear, they give you no guarantees. They're just like best weather sealing to date. And it's like, okay, well, like, can I take it in the rain? They're like, I don't know. Maybe. If it breaks, it's not our fault. So I don't like that there's not a lot of guarantees with the weather sealing, but it is a nice peace of mind, especially if you're out in the elements all the time. But I'm going to say that weather sealing is overrated. Noisy photos. We don't love them. We don't want them. But are they overrated, underrated? And I'm going to say this, like, the hate towards them. Like, I've seen people be like, this is a great photo, but it's too noisy, so I'm not going to put it out. And I think that noisy photos get too much hate. So what does that make them? Underrated. Noisy photos are underrated. And look, in a perfect world, you wouldn't take noisy photos, but I'm a firm believer it's better to have the photo exist than not exist at all. So if you're at like, you know, I don't know, ISO 6400 and above and it starts to get a little noisy, is it perfect? No. But screw it. Like, I just don't care. Like, and I'm not a stickler for a lot of things. Like, oh, your focus is a little soft, but it's like one of the most beautiful storytelling portraits of all time. Hell yeah, get it out there to the world. I don't think a little bit of grain should be the reason that you don't put a photo out unless it's actually so bad that it detracts from the photo. Like, if that's really all you can look at, like you can't even see the storytelling or the other aspects of the photo, you're just like, oh my god, I'm looking at pixel art. Oh, that's a photo? Jesus, that's crazy. Yeah, then maybe don't put it out. But for a majority of situations, I think noisy photos get a little too much hate. And look, if you got the photo, put it out there. Noisy photos, how did I say it? Underrated, underrated. Noisy photos are underrated, damn it. Camera straps. I'm gonna ruffle some feathers in my own household with this one. I don't like them. I do have them on some of my cameras, but I really don't tend to like them. And for one, the tourist look, you know, camera around the neck, you're walking around Rome and everyone knows to pickpocket you because you just look like a tourist. And that's not even my biggest beef with them. I don't like the look, yeah, but I think they get in the way. Like, especially with like street photography, I'm like trying to snap the camera up. I feel like the chances you're gonna flip the strap onto your lens and get it in the way of the photo, it happens all the time. And that's how I know that I don't use camera straps right, because I don't have it around my neck. The camera is loose to get thrown around on it, but I just don't like them, all right? And I know that some people like them, and I respect it, and I know that there's nicer ones out there than like what they come with in the box. I don't care. I don't want them. I prefer like the clips where it like goes on your backpack or your camera straps, your belt, or whatever you need. And then look, and then I just hold on for dear life. I just don't let go. But camera straps, overrated. Don't use them. Throw them away. I'm just kidding. Use them if you like them. Camera straps, overrated for me personally. All right, taking your photos in the raw photo format. Overrated, underrated. Look, I want you to know I didn't write a script. I'm kind of just riffing here because I wanted to give my raw opinion. And I gotta calculate all the stuff because it's like, look, if you're taking photos seriously, like you're trying to sell prints or you're trying to, you know, like get the most out of your photos, you should shoot in RAW. But if you don't edit your photos, what the hell are you doing shooting your photos in RAW? I really mean it. You are stacking up hard drives for no reason. You are having all this data to just, what, maybe come back to it one day? Look, I'm going to give this one an adequately rated because, look, the right tool for the right job, and you always got to take that into account. If you edit your photos, yes, shoot in RAW. What the else would you do? If you don't, yes, shoot JPEG. If you're a casual photographer, or you know what, sometimes it's something that's not very important, like you have a client who needs it and it's just shot on like a white background, or it's really important, like you're doing something for a newspaper. JPEG can sometimes just be good enough. It really helps with the turnaround, and sometimes the in-camera colors are just good enough to get the job done. Great. Right tool for the right job. RAW photos, I'm gonna cop out, I'm sorry. RAW photos are adequately rated. Use them if you need them. All right, next, tilt screens on the camera. If you don't know what I mean, this is just like the display on the back of your modern camera that shows you your photos and your settings. If that like flips out and can rotate, or like there's a couple different versions of them, but essentially it allows you, whether like you're on a tripod looking down at the camera, or if you're like videoing from weird angles, it makes your screen more flexible. Is that overrated or underrated? And look, again, I don't really know what I want to say right now, because look, my main camera is the 5D Mark IV. And my biggest beef with that camera is it doesn't have an articulating like screen. But I get the job done. It doesn't ruin my life most of the time. My life's ruined. I don't have a flip screen. No, but it's always my biggest thing. Like when I upgrade, I'm so excited for it. And when I use my EOS R, my 80D, and I have the flip screen, I'm like, this is great. I'm living. I'm like, it's the biggest reason to walk away from my 5D Mark IV. But I know I'm doing this video for my own personal opinion. I know that people like the tilt screens and people like the flip screens. I'm going to say that they're underrated. No. Yes. Underrated. Flip screens are underrated. Every camera should have a flip screen. If you don't have a flip screen, why are you even making a camera? We're at the point where actually a lot of manufacturers have them on there. Look. Yeah, underrated. No. I want to say adequately rated, but I can't do 3. I already did 1 and 2. Flip screens are great. They're underrated. If you don't have one, try and get a camera with one. It's life-changing. Underrated. All right. Dual memory card slots. I might piss some people off with this one. I think they're overrated. And I say this is this real wood, or is this it's particle board? All right, I'm screwed. I've never had an issue with my memory cards, other than one photo. I've taken, I think, somewhere between like 80 and 90,000 photos as of recording this video, and I've had one photo corrupt in my whole life. I have not had the need for dual memory cards. In my 80D and my EOS R, that's about it. I use one card, it's totally fine. I've shot weddings, I've shot paid work, I've never had an issue. I haven't even been stressed. But when I do shoot with the 5D and I'm doing like a wedding or something paid, I do use dual memory cards, just because why wouldn't you? It's one of those things, like if you have it, use it. But I've never been cursed. But you know what? The horror stories I've read on Reddit, Twitter, whatever, they do keep me up at night. They scare me. And I really hope I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't wish it on myself. But I'm going to say, for 99% of photographers, I think they're overrated and you don't need it. If you are shooting only paid work and this is how you pay your bills and stuff, give yourself the insurance. Don't make yourself suffer. I just think for most people, it's not necessary. Dual card slots are overrated. Let's talk about battery portrait grips. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's that thing where you gotta like take your battery thing out and it slots in the bottom. I'll put one on the screen because I am not good at visually describing things. I struggle. I'm sorry. I had to retake the 3rd grade 5 times. It's not true. I don't know why I said that. It is true. No. What do I think of them? Are they overrated? Are they underrated? Look, I'm going to go overrated in the fact that I mostly shoot on DSLR still, so my battery life is good. I don't have to really stress about killing my battery after 500 photos. So I don't need it for the battery life. If I shoot a wedding, I do put it on. But for literally anything else, I never put it on. It's too big. So like for street photography, words, hard, I know. For street photography, it looks like I'm carrying a freaking weapon, like a bazooka. Like I pull that out and aim that at someone, they're gonna duck behind the trash can. They're gonna think I'm trying to kill them. It's too much. It's too eye-catching in the street photography sense. And then in nature, like I'm hiking, it's too big. I don't need all that. Like, if I had like a 1XD or what are they do, the R3 now, like, yes, if it's built in, fine enough, that's the camera, that is what it is. But I'm not gonna add more bulk to my camera just for a little bit of extra battery life. But look, if you shoot in a studio setting, if you shoot weddings a lot, I probably am sure that they're very nice to use on a regular basis. I only have one because it came with my camera used. That being said, they're so overrated. I don't really think they're necessary for most people. Like, just twist your wrist. It's nice to have. It's a nice quality of life, but I think that the trade-off for most people just isn't there. You probably don't need it. Battery grips are overrated. Tripods, underrated, overrated. I'll throw monopods in there as well. I've never used a monopod, so I really am talking from nothing on that one. So, but tripods in general, look, I'll give you my opinion. I hate them. I don't like to carry them unless I really, like, I'm like, I need to do it. Like, what, you're gonna shoot astrophotography without a tripod? Of course not. Right thing for the right job, they're great. But, like, I'm willing to bump my noise a little bit, or, like, really just stand still, or really just... you know what, though? I'm gonna say they're underrated. I think more people could probably get more use out of them because most people feel the way that I feel. Which is where I have to be honest. I probably hate tripods too much. I'm going to extend this. I'm going to do a bonus point, a point inside the point. Carbon fiber is so freaking overrated. Do not buy a carbon fiber tripod unless you just have more money than you know what to do with. If that's the case, you should go buy my prints. But look, carbon fiber, probably not necessary. Tripod, underrated. Be better than me. Do as I say and not as I do. Probably use a tripod. Tripods are underrated. They're gonna make your landscape photos sharper. They're gonna make your photos that are in difficult lighting situations better. And they're gonna make you shoot more thoughtfully. It would probably benefit you to try and use a tripod a little bit more, but I won't. So it won't be me. But tripods are underrated. 14 we're at. Jesus, you're still watching. Thank you. I appreciate it. We are doing IBIS. No, not IBS. IBIS, in-body image stabilization, which is like the sensor is stabilized. I'll put a graphic on screen or something so you can visualize it. And lens stabilization, which is the lens does the same thing. Essentially, all the elements that capture your photo have gyros in them, and it's stabilizing so that you get better photos when you're moving. Underrated, overrated. You know, my only camera with IBIS is my iPhone, actually, funny enough. This has that in there. And it gets really good photos. Like, this is an iPhone 12. I have handheld took photos of the stars before because of that being in there. That's very nice. No tripod, nothing. It's not sharp. It's not the best photo ever, but it's fun to have. And I would say half my lenses have image stabilization, and I do really appreciate it. But I don't find it, like, so necessary. It's not like I'm like, God, I'm not going to use my 24-70 because it doesn't have it. Like, it's one of those things where it is really nice to have, but you can get away. People have been shooting for decades without it, and you'll be just fine. You do have to really slow down, you know, concentrate, especially when you have a lower shutter speed, and stabilize yourself and take those photos. And you know what? It's the biggest thing I think that separates the DSLR generation from the mirrorless generation, because that's what you really see. That's the biggest reason to upgrade is like 5-stop image stabilization on the sensor and then the lenses. And it's like, Jesus Christ, do you even need a tripod anymore? Look, if money is no object, 100% worth it. But I think you can get by without it. So I'm going to say overrated. It is really nice. I say that painfully. I wish I had more of it, but it's overrated. Be honest with yourself. You can probably get by without it. For photography, it is overrated. For videography, yeah, a gimbal or a stabilization method would probably be necessarily adequately rated. But photography, it's overrated. Get better. Just be a better photographer. Nah, I'm just kidding. But, you know, do what you need to do. But image stabilization, lens stabilization, overrated. Film. Look, I love film. But I gotta say some things that I'm not even gonna like. Is film underrated or overrated? Look, everyday person, probably overrated. A fanatic, a crazy person like myself, adequately rated. Look, it's one of those things that you do because you love it. We're at the point where if you shoot on a digital camera, there's so many benefits of life, so many quality of life improvements. And the simulations and the editing plugins have gotten pretty good that 99% of people probably can't really tell the difference between your film simulated photo and your real genuine film photo. And what I will say is final product does matter. You know, if you don't own a film camera but you want the film look, I don't think you're lame. People are lame for hating on your work. I really believe that. If that's what you want, you can definitely do that. But if you love the craft, if you love scanning your photos, you know, working with the film, having the film, working with something that's more analog, it is something that you really can't replicate, and I think it is a genuinely fun experience in the same way that driving a manual car is more driving than an automatic is. But I don't think you should be a snob and be like, oh my god, you're driving automatic, Jesus Christ, man, what are you doing? I am going to say, look, it's just how you say it, you know what I mean? Because it's like overrated and underrated. I'm going to say that it's underrated in the fact that if you really love photography, I think you should probably give it a try. Because it is just, it's a very genuine, pure form of what photography is. And there are some aspects that are just hard to replicate on the digital side. It's a huge pain in the ass, oh my god. I like seriously have had photos, I have film photos I need to scan for maybe like 3, 4, or 5 months now. And it's because I just don't want to take the hour to do it. And I'm being really, really, really lazy. I just know it's not my best role. And like, I have to be honest about that. Like, my digital photos, it's just a way better pipeline. I know, I'm making this point really long. I have a lot to say about film. This should be its own video. Film is underrated, and if you are really turned off by it, like, look, if you really don't like it, all that sounds like too much work, don't do it. But I think that you shouldn't turn yourself away from it. Like, I think you should at least try it. It's worth buying a cheaper film camera, shooting a roll, seeing if like, oh, that was fun. Shoot more, or just sell it. I don't know, the resale value is pretty good. I'm gonna say film is underrated, and you should probably give it a chance. But if you're a really casual photographer, it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of money. But maybe give it a shot, I don't know. Film is underrated. I don't care what you say, I'm not reading the comments. Oh my god, we're at, there's no watch. It's freckle o'clock, baby. I don't know how long this video is, but look, if you made it to this point, I really appreciate it. Holy crap, you watched a video on my opinions? That's nuts. I hope you liked it. If there's other things you think I should talk about, underrated, overrated, I'd love to talk about them. Put them in the comments. If you disagree with me in a civil way that is not going to hurt my feelings, because I will cry, tell me what you think about this camera gear. But look, photography. I love it. Look, I do a newsletter every month. I don't spam you. It's on my website. Sign up for that. You can get my creative process. I'll let you know when I get videos out and stuff. If you watch this far, maybe like this video, so subscribe, like this video, check out my other videos. I talk about photography and other things like tech stuff. I'm going to get into more stuff. I'm going to make more videos, so be there for them. But again, this is the outro. This is where a lot of people log off. If you're here, thank you. You're probably just sleeping. I'm sorry. Thank you for watching. Bye.